Hi, welcome to Twisted Fibers Designs, and in this video I'm going to show you how to do a 2x2 rib. So a 2x2 rib can be cast on in two different ways. You can do it in a multiple of 4 or a multiple of 4 plus 2 stitches. So which one you decide to do is how you want your edges of your piece to look. If you do a multiple of 4, you're going to have 2 knits at the beginning and you're going to end with 2 purls. If you do a multiple of 4 plus 2, you will begin with 2 knits and you will end with 2 knits. So it'll be balanced on the sides. So it's up to you how you decide to do that. I'm going to show you an example using the multiple of 4 plus 2 stitches so that we will be balanced on both sides. So I'm going to begin by casting on. Okay, so I have 12 stitches on here. I have a multiple of 4, and now I'm going to add my 2 extra stitches. Okay, so I'm going to turn my work around so that my needle is in my left hand. And making sure that I am using my yarn that is attached to my ball. Okay, and we are going to begin with a knit 2. Okay, so I've knit 2. Now I'm going to bring my working yarn to the front so that I can purl the next 2 stitches. Now I did have another video showing how to do this, but there was some confusion over it, so this is an updated version. And somebody did have a question about ribbing if it curls and if you need to slip a stitch at the beginning. And that is usually something that you do with stockinette stitch. Rib stitch does not curl per se. It will bunch up a little bit, and that can usually be fixed by blocking it. So by getting it wet and pinning it out onto a blocking board or stretching it out on a towel. So I've purled these 2 stitches. Now we move our yarn to the back. And we are going to knit the next 2. yarn to the front, purl, purl, yarn to the back, knit, knit, yarn to the front, purl, purl. And because I added those 2 extra stitches to my multiple of 4, we are going to be ending with 2 knit stitches. Which means that we began with 2 knit stitches and we're ending with 2 knit stitches. So they will be even. And again, if that doesn't matter to you, if you don't mind ending with a purl or with 2 purls, even though you began with knit stitches, then go ahead and just cast on the multiple of 4. So for row 2, we are now facing the back of our work, and those last 2 knit stitches from the back are purl stitches now. So we are going to begin with 2 purl stitches. Yarn to the back, and the next 2 will be knit stitches. Yarn to the front, knit 2, purl 2, yarn to the back, knit 2, and this ribbing creates a nice stretchy fabric. That's why it works good for the cuffs of sweaters. It also looks really nice on scarves. And the nice thing about ribbing is it is double-sided, so it will look the same from either side. That's why it does work well on scarves, because generally you see a scarf from both sides when it's wrapped around your neck or, you know, something like that. Okay, and I'm on my last 2 stitches of row 2, and we are going to purl 2. Turn our work around, and we are going to go back to the same thing that we did in row 1. It's a repeat of 2 rows. So back to row 1, we are going to begin with a knit stitch. And another knit. Bring our yarn to the front, and we are going to purl 2. Yarn to the back, knit 2, yarn to the front, purl 2. and finish up our last 2 stitches on the row with a knit 2. And we can see our ribbing starting to take place here. I'm going to turn my work around, making sure that my working stitches are in my left hand. And on this wrong side row, this opposite row, we're going to begin with 2 purl stitches. Now when I get to the end of this row, I'm going to show you how to bind off in rib. And generally it's called binding off in pattern, and that means that you're using the stitch pattern, you're following the stitch pattern to bind off. And it just helps it look a little bit neater when you bind off, and a little bit less obvious. And we do that this way. So we're going to knit the first one, because on this side, on our right side, we began with a knit. I'm going to knit the second one, and we're going to pass this stitch over. But because our next stitch is a purl, we're going to bring our yarn to the front, and we're going to purl this stitch. And then we're going to slip the stitch on our first stitch on our needle over that purl stitch. We're going to purl the next one, because it is also a purl. So you're going to follow whatever your stitch is that you're, whatever your next stitch is. Pass this one over. Okay, so our next one is a knit. So I'm going to bring my yarn to the back. And we are going to knit this one, pass the first stitch over, knit the next one because it is a knit, pass our first stitch over, and our next one is a purl. So we're going to move our yarn to the front, purl this stitch, pass the first one over, purl the next one, and you're going to continue binding off this way, working the stitches as they come. So our next one is a knit. I put my yarn in the back. Okay, and as you can see, we have a bind off that's a little bit less obvious, and it's going to be stretchier because it doesn't follow one stitch pattern all the way across. And that is the 2x2 rib. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.